Hello, my name is Daniel MacQueen, and I'll be presenting today at the conference. Very excited to speak with you and share my experience after a traumatic brain injury. This is going to be probably a shorter presentation than most. I want to spend more time on the Q&A portion. I believe that's more value for practitioners. But let's dive into things, shall we? So who are you? This presentation has been tailored to you, practitioners of brain injured people, doctors, OTs, therapists. I'm building this with the hopes of you learning from this and passing this along to your patients, okay? This has been very much tailored to you specifically. We're gonna go through we're gonna first go through a lesson learned, which is a Stoic through line for the talk today. This is Epictetus, and he goes, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. This is the most important takeaway for the talk today. If you take away nothing else from my presentation, this through line, if you can pass it on to your patients, they'll be better for this. If you can get them to believe this with everything in their soul and their heart, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters, you are in a good way. That means you got possibility. That means you got agency. That means you got the ability to improve your lot. This is what we're going to carry through the talk today. Let's go through some lessons and stuff like that first, right? Medical rap sheet. Who am I? I know I don't scream someone who's been through a medical emergency like a brain injury. Walk through why I'm someone who can speak to this and what I went through. Lots of fun stuff there. Resilient mindset. How do you build this and foster this? Yes, you can build this. Yes, you can foster this. Let me show you how. The third is strategy and hacks. How you can incorporate these in your vibe and kind of gamify things for your patients. Turn down the suck a little bit, make it more fun. Gamifying things and having hacks is a great way to do this. So before this happened, I was a healthy and active 20-year-old guy living and working in London. These are pictures actually when I lived in Sweden before I moved to London. Cruising through the docks in Malmo, Sweden on the left-hand side. Fishing up in Nacka, Sweden on the right-hand side. Started having these headaches that were horrible. They were blinding headaches. My vision would turn spotty. And sometimes I would see stars or would go black. I went to A&E twice. Now, A&E is accident and emergency in the UK. They thought it was vertigo and they sent me home. On the second visit, they told me as I was leaving, if the headaches continued, if they persisted, I get my eyes checked in an optometrist. So it was in the middle of the exam when the optometrist, Mr. Patel, stopped it. He excused himself, wrote down on a piece of paper and gave me a sealed envelope. He told me to go directly to Moorfield's Hospital, which I did. Well, I first stopped at home to grab a Jack Reacher book by Lee Childs. I figured I'd be in for a bit of a wait and want something to read. Grabbed a phone charger because I figured communication would be kind of key, and then a bite to eat because, hey, we all got to eat, don't we? I went to Moorfield's Hospital. They ran the same test and escalated me to Charing Cross Hospital. Turns out I had a dangerous buildup of pressure in my brain caused from a non-cancerous cyst in my head. It turns out I required emergency brain surgery. Turns out my world is about to change altogether. After a frantic back and forth with my family, here's the last text message I sent my mom before I went into emergency brain surgery. I'll see you soon, Mom. I think I'll have a new haircut next time I see you. Love, Dan. This message is masking a lot of fear, a lot of insecurity. I was terrified, but didn't want to let it show. This could be curtains for me. But I wanted to kind of go with a bit of a bang if this is the message. This message is masking a lot of fear and insecurity. I was terrified, right? Mom responds back with even cuter. Mom and Dad sending hugs. Hospitals in your neighborhood. Remember that through line we talked about? It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Who would have thought? My mom, the Stoic philosopher. My mom was in the air flying to London on June 21st, 2014, when I was on the operating table. Something went wrong and I had a massive bleed in the brain hemorrhage. They think the cyst burst when they operated. My mom lands and finds I'm in critical condition. I was in a coma for 4 weeks, but was in and out of consciousness for months after that. Things were dicey, touch and go. When all was said and done, I was learning how to walk, talk, and smile again. This is tremendously low point. I can't tell you how difficult this was. When I was in the ICU, they had to keep my core temperature down by putting ice blankets above and below me. It's led to violent shivering. My family says it's horrible to watch. Alarms constantly went off as blood pressure spiked or heart rate too high. I was unconscious most of the time in the intensive care unit, but my family communicated through blinking and hand squeezes. This was horrible to watch. Here's a picture of me in the ICU. I was told, pictures of my back, right? You can't see my face. I was told that this was not one of my stronger looks. So I'm very glad that they kept this to the backside, because it was one wonky eye, all crazy. It was pretty god awful. When I was said and done, I was learning to walk, talk, and smile again. In order to walk, I had to wear a splint. My leg had become frozen at an angle in the ICU, the intensive care unit. I had to wear a splint 1 hour a night to help stretch out the leg. The splint's on the right-hand side there. Me wearing the splint on the left there, wrapped up with bandages. Now, you notice something else in this picture that's quite understated and subtle. I'll point it out to you just in case you have not noticed it yet. Think avant-garde, think fashion forward. Some may even call it oblivious. Eye skills on point here. Needless to say, mirrors weren't exactly my top priority in the space, so it was a bit difficult to navigate this. In order to walk, I had to wear the splint 1 hour a night. It was hurtfully painful, but it got me walking again. Here I am lurching forward on the hallways of the Wolfson on the Zimmer frame, which I'm sure you're very aware of. It was slow rolling, man. I moved up from here to the Ferrari, which is a four-wheeled walker you kind of waddle around quickly on. Then moved up to naked walks. Now, what's a naked walk, you may ask? Relax, relax, relax. It's on the other hard drive, ladies and gentlemen. Naked walks are one of these. I was walking without sporter aids. I was walking naked. The term kind of stuck. It was a long road down to get to the naked walks, but man, I was just happy moving. Then came time to walk in Tooting Broadway. My first real test. My first hack. It's a bit out of order here, but that's fine. This is glass half full. So walking in Tooting Broadway was a challenge. Tooting Broadway is in South London, for those of you that don't know. And it's what they call up and coming. It means it's dodgy as, think loud sirens, think drugs, gangs, dirty, hectic, busy. It's a full-on versatile experience. I'm walking the cane, walking with an eye patch. I'm Bambi on ice out here. I turn the corner under Tooting Broadway for the first time. Immediately get slammed into by someone. I stagger back a few feet. Someone scurries past me on the right-hand side. Thought I was done with the rats. Someone's been stabbed on the sidewalk over here. It's pretty wild experience here. I'm thinking this is pretty crappy place to learn how to walk. After a few days of this, I was thinking this is the worst place to learn how to walk in the world. Can't they see I'm trying to walk here? Can't they see I'm trying here? And then one day my perspective shifted. Maybe this isn't the worst place to learn how to walk in the world. Maybe this is the best. If I can walk here, I can walk anywhere. Now, Tooting Broadway didn't change, right? It went from the worst to the best in my mind. My mood reflected that. What are you looking at in your life that you convince is the worst? Maybe it is the worst. Maybe it is. Maybe you can turn down the suck a little bit. Can you shift your perspective? This made all the difference. When you look at things differently, your world actually changes. When you change the way you look at the world you look at changes. It's huge. After grueling rehab, I was finally had to be released from Wolfson Rehab Center. Woohoo! Lovely Victoria's photo. And the day I got released from the Wolfson Rehab Center, I had the Christmas party at Hootsuite. Trying to my friends here, Rob, Yo, James, and myself. It's a great day out of rehab and got to celebrate with my mates. After I got out of rehab, I did months of rehab at home, OT, occupational therapy, physical therapy, preparing for return to work. It was arduous, it was difficult, it was strenuous. The ascent is what I'm talking about here. The climb back up, it was all-encompassing. Now, I want to talk about motivation. I'm going to shift gears here a little bit. Motivation. How do you foster this in people, right? What is motivation? How do you capture this? Don't judge the motivation. Don't judge it. It is what it is. Whatever motivates you works. I have this picture of Noel Gallagher giving the 2 for the road, which in the UK, this means, pardon my French, up yours or fuck right off. Now, this picture encapsulates how I motivated myself. When I wasn't able to talk after I was in the coma, the way the nurse got me talking was she took me down to the park and she sat me in front of these people in front of the park and she told me, Dan, these guys across the park, they don't think you're good enough to talk. Dan, they don't think you're good enough to talk. I found my voice. True for the road. You gotta embrace and lean into whatever motivates your patients. Is it a challenge? Is it being told you're not good enough? This is a delicate thing to do. Don't push this too hard, but understand what motivates them and hammer that. There's no right or wrong reason to motivate yourself. Now, I've transitioned myself from motivation from this hateful, spiteful place. I'll be honest, it's still part of my vibe, to now more of a lending hand service. Things like this, speaking at brain injury groups, volunteering to speak at my old rehab center, Wilson Rehab Center in Broadway. Does this last much longer than sticking it to you? Sticking it to you feels pretty good at the time, but once you've done that, once you finish it, the motivation evaporates like it was never there. Oof. So this service is what I'm trying to do now, and it really kind of keeps me long form, which is nice. But don't judge the motivation. You're not right or wrong. Whatever works. Resilient mindset. How do you foster this? What is resiliency? Now, you can train this 100%. Okay, I think I was resilient before this happened. I was always a bit chippy. Always kind of proving people wrong was my vibe. The last slide, motivation, that was a big part of my vibe. Resiliency, how do you foster this? How do you build resiliency? Like, you do this by keeping promises to yourself. What do I mean with this? I'm going to work out every day this week. I'll walk for a block. Do that for a week. Once you're done, next week, do 2 blocks. Do that for 2 weeks, a week. Then you go 3 weeks, 3 blocks the next week. And you stack up this evidence to showcase that you do what you say you're going to do. You keep promises to yourself. I do what I say I'm going to do. And this way, you keep promises to yourself, you build resiliency, you flex that muscle. The muscle grows and expands. I meditate every day for 25 minutes. Now, that's a ridiculous number to start with because that's going to lead to failure and frustration. But I started with 2 minutes. Next week, I did 4 minutes, then 6, then 8, then 10, then you scale it up, you grow it. But you're building up this evidence, a stack of evidence to showcase, I do what I say I'm going to do. And that way, you can show that you're a resilient person. This is a key part of this vibe, and you can train resiliency. You can build this into your vibe, right? Which is so key and so important for practitioners and also for patients, because you can do this. You can do this. I built this up, right? Now, goals. You can't score without goals. I'm going to share a quick goal selection here. This is a big part of my vibe and a big part of how I was able to climb back up from the depths of where I was. Stairway to heaven. I'll share the story with you. I was in Wilson Rehab for a couple of months, and a chance for a home visit came up. I hadn't been home in probably 5 months, and I was really looking forward to a weekend back at home. The only thing that stood between me and the way of getting a home visit were the stairs to get back to my flat in Hammersmith. As my mom put it, there must be 100. No. There was only 44. Only 44 steps stood between me and a chance to have a weekend away, a weekend out of the street hospital. 44 steps didn't sound like much, but keep in mind I was fresh out of a wheelchair. I began training in the hospital, taking on little chunks, trying to get my way to 44. 44 was all I needed to have a weekend away, a weekend out of that tree hospital. I set this goal for myself, or rather it was set for me. Come hell or high water, I was making up those 44 steps back home. You can set goals for yourself. You can reach these goals. Map them out. Aim small, miss small. Pick a small winnable target and grow from there. This is an example of a short-term goal that really helped me reach the peaks of my rehab and return. I'll tell you, at the end of that walk, I made the best BLT sandwich I've ever had in my life. Here I am on the last leg of those 44 there. We thought this was possible. Impossible. 100 steps. It must be insane. It was only 44, and I managed to do it after training after weeks. Small, measurable goals is how you increase and grow this, right? I want to share the best and the worst memory I had in the hospital. We'll start with the worst one with the best to keep it light, keep it fun. The worst memory I had in the hospital was I was getting my eyes checked by an optometrist. She drags the pen down. She goes, "Tell me when you can't see this anymore." And I go, "Well, that's a bit difficult because I've got double vision. When that goes away, I should be able to track that just well enough." She goes, "Oh, that's not going to go away." And I said, "Excuse me?" She goes, "Yeah, that's not going to go away." But I'd never heard this before. This is the first time I was being communicated this is for life. And she was treating it like, "Oh, you should just know this." Like, okay, so it's for life, but like this is my life. And I gotta live with this now. I can't tell you how much that deflated me. That was like the air out of my lungs. I was gut punched from this. Now the best memory I had was with my GP Jens when I first met him. So in a waiting room, I'm sitting there with my dad, and I've got my cane and my eye patch. I'm looking crunk, but not nearly as bad as my file, I would imagine, portrayed me as. And he goes, "Dan MacQueen." Yes, that's me over here. He goes, "Dan, I read your file. I thought you'd be a wreck." I go, "Jens, I'm sorry to disappoint you." Now, I love that line because it shows off how quick-witted and brilliant I am. A joke. But it shows the human relationship that Jens and I had. Treat me as a person first and a patient second, I got time for you. A patient first, or a person first and a patient second, I got time for you. Treat me as a patient first and a patient first, this is a tongue twister and a half. A patient first and a person second, I got no time for you. I got no respect for you. This is your life. You should just know this. Like, yeah, but it's my life, man. Like, give that to your patients. A person first, a patient second. I was being interviewed by these new doctors with regards to how they should treat their patients. And I told them this lesson. They told me, "Dan, I'm so glad you told me this because that's a big part of why I wasn't sure how to react and how to deal with this." And I said, "Yeah, always a person first, a patient second." First. Hacks. Oh, we have a good amount of time for hacks. So hacks are a way for you to speed up your vibe and to kind of reintegrate into life after brain injury, right? It's they're fun, they're lighthearted. I'll go through a few of them until we have time, and then I'll just tail them off. We might end abruptly. But hacks. So you win the morning, you win the day. First hack I have is making your bed. Making your bed. Seems simple, right? Seems simple. But it's a symbol for your life. The first task you do in the day is, hey, I woke up and did this in the day. Last thing you do in the day is get into bed. Hey, I accomplished that in the morning. Plus, the room will look tidy if your bed's made. If you win the morning, you win the day. Making your bed is one of the best habits I picked up. And probably from my presentation, the biggest habit that I've imparted on people to do. Making your bed's a key part of my vibe now, and I really take a lot of pride in my bed making, and I think it's a big part of my success. You paved the way for more success. Swimming. This can be exercise in any form. I love swimming, so I picked this as my exercise. But I'll wake up in the morning, go for a walk, go for the gym, go for a swim. Mood follows action. Okay, mood follows action. Get a sweat on, get in your body, and you can feel your vibe out. I love this because it gets the endorphins going. You're sending signals to your body. You're getting fitter. It's all benefit. It's all positive. Feel a bit upset. Feel a bit frustrated. Feel a bit stuck. Go for a workout. Burn off those calories. Burn off that angst in your body. I love swimming because there's no outside influence, no traffic, no people on the streets. The only thing that comes up is those pesky backstrokers. Don't get me started on those guys and girls. But swimming is a big part of my vibe, and I really suggest you take it on board. Showers. After you worked out, after you burned some calories, you don't want to shower, I hope. Now, the first hack I have here, and this one's for free, is buy some eucalyptus oil and sprinkle some eucalyptus oil in your shower. You'll be transformed into a spa-like environment for the cost of pennies on the pound here. It's a fantastic hack, and I really recommend you do it. But the real reason why I got this on for the brain injury conferences, and the shower's cold. Nothing heroic here, 1 to 2 minutes. But you shower normally, fill your bits, get yourself cleaned up. Before you exit the shower, hard cold, 1 to 2 minutes. This will stress your body. The first few times are very difficult for sure. But if you can stick with the pain, it's not painful, I promise you that. If you can stick with the discomfort, that's a better word, you can have the endorphin rush, the dopamine rush that's so amazing. It lasts for hours after the case. Andrew Human's big on this. I do this now, and I swear by this every day. Every day. If I leave the shower when it's still warm, I have to go back and do cold. No joke. Next one, meditation. So I mentioned this earlier. Meditation has been the best habit I picked up since the brain injury. The reason why I started meditating was I read Tim Ferriss' book, Tools of Titans, in which he says the top 10, 20% of people, the people that he interviewed for the book, 80% of them have a meditation practice, a mindfulness practice, for at least, so many minutes, but the real benefits come after 20 minutes, I read somewhere. So do 20 to 25 minutes every morning. I started with 2 minutes in the morning, then ramped up to 4 the next week, then 6 the next week after that. Build this up gradually. I started with a free trial of Headspace, the app, but now I just set a timer on my phone for 20 minutes and put rain noise in the background and do that. This is life-changing, and the best habit I picked up since a brain injury. Fika. So fika is Swedish for coffee break, and something I picked up while I studied over there. I got me a nice cup of joe right now. But fika is a big habit I picked up when I was working in the business in work in Hootsuite in London. Whenever you feel a bit of fatigue on setting, brain injuries, that's quite a big part of your vibe, right? Fatigue's quite big. I get up from my desk and I go for a walk and I grab a coffee with a little bit of a treat, preferably with someone to grab a little bit of chat afterwards as well. But you really want to be mindful of your battery level, right? I say my battery is about 75% now after the brain injury. You can't push through this stuff. I've tried to push through it and I failed at the desk. Where I literally collapse at the desk, or not collapse, but I slump over and someone goes, "Hey, Dan, wake up. You're sleeping right now." It's not a good look for you or your organization or your group or your team. So don't do that. Go for a walk, grab a fika, enjoy a bit of a treat. It's fantastic. Icebreakers. This is one of my favorites. So icebreakers are not a social icebreaker, but more of like a walking icebreaker. So think about London as quite a busy city. Think about the circuses, Piccadilly Circus, Oxford Circus, they're a bloody circus. It's chaos. There's people everywhere, walking in every direction possible. It's a total cluster, total dumpster fire. We'll use that word. That's less cursey on this one. What you want to do is find someone walking your direction and you slide in behind them. Let them break the ice for you. Let them deal with that oncoming strife and adversity. You're just kind of coaxing off their tailwind. We're in that pocket. You're in the slipstream. Find this in a busy place, busy parts of the country. When you're walking with a lot of people, this makes a big difference in your vibe. You can relax, you can rest, you cannot be dealing with the oncoming traffic and strife. Alter ego. This is my podcast, Play Loose or Tight. The cover here, pretty cool cover art. I had a friend of mine draw this and a friend of mine do the digital overlay. But the reason why I'm showing you this is not to promote my podcast, although that's always cool, but to talk about this alter ego that I dive into when I'm doing hard things. Danny Mac, I call him. You guys heard of David Goggins? He dives into Goggins, okay? This is his alter ego. Goggins does hard stuff. He's not afraid of these difficult tasks and dives into these things. For me, that's Danny Mac. I morphed into him before I started presenting today. When I speak on stage, when I'm doing hard stuff, I'm learning to walk, talk, and smile again. Like it's the person you morph into to become the superhero, to dive in and accomplish these things. I think we're good for time there. I'm going to end it there.